Velkommen til LØRN.tech, en læringsdugnad om teknologi og samfunn, med Silvija Ceres og venner.
Hello and welcome to a LØRN conversation. My name is Silvija Ceres and my guest today is Eli Haugerud, who is head of clusters in Smart Innovation Norway. Welcome, Eli.
Thank you, Silvija.
So I'll say a few words about the series that this is a part of, and then we'll jump into the conversation. It's not really a lecture, it's not a debate, it's just a friendly conversation between two interested ladies. And the focus of the series that we are part of now is new perspectives on applied artificial intelligence. So we have about 20 people who have very interesting and unique perspectives, and your perspective, Eli, I think would be related to the clusters that you're heading, where one is actually called Cluster for Applied AI or some such, and the other one is about smart energy markets. Both super interesting application areas, industrial and energy markets. Have I got that more or less right?
Yes, I think so. It's all about, and actually those two topics are quite heavily related as well. So it's I think you got it right about these topics.
Excellent. So it is, as I mentioned, an informal half-an-hour conversation, and hopefully people will find both inspiration and learning from listening to us. So I always start by asking people, basically, who are you and what has made you so? So what's your story, Eli?
Yeah, well, it's a big question actually, but it's always how to define yourself. But from my educational background, I have a master's in analytical chemistry, but I've added quite a few things into my I would say into my head within system. In IT education, innovation, strategy, pedagogics, all the things that I find interesting, I've tried to learn a little bit more about that. So I have a quite broad background when it comes to the educational part. I think I found my interest into the technology and to science when I was around 13 years old. I had a teacher that was just amazing and had this energy about technology and science. So that I think that was what lit my spark into going into technology and science. I think that I still have that. I had just transformed it into more artificial intelligence and to different markets and to help others into this. I've been working in the IT business. I've been working with Techno for quite a few years. I've been working at a school, and now I work with Smart Innovation Norway. I live in Oslo. I have a family here. I have a dog that I like to walk with every day and do a lot of other things as well. So that's brief. Yeah.
I think of you as somebody who is one of the best thinkers we have in Norway when it comes to innovation systems or innovation ecosystems, even better. It has to do with clusters, but it also has to do with basically thinking in multiple directions or stakeholder thinking. And this is some of the work that you're doing also now in actually two clusters at the same time in Halden area. Would you say a little bit about why do you believe that this systemic thinking results in better innovation than if everybody does it on their own?
Yeah, well, first I would say that some companies are big enough to do innovation by their own, but most of the companies they don't have the competence or the resources or the financial muscles to do this. But we see that a lot of them have really great ideas and possible innovation possibilities. So I think that putting this into a system and to gather competence and to get people with other ideas and connections to talk to each other. I think that's really when we get to play very good in this innovation game, I think, and to find the really good possibilities. And I would say that in the clusters, we always say that we hunt for the things that normally wouldn't happen without being together, and that's really part of what we think of in the clusters, to hunt for these possibilities, and to do so we need to have all the different actors within the value chain. We need to have both the customers and those who are able to solve the problems. We need to have the users. We need to have the entire ecosystem into this to be able to create this. And we also see that the cluster way of working is to combine all these different actors. And since we also have two clusters in Smart Innovation Norway, we also have a very strong combination of those two, because in the energy market, we see that there's a lot of possibilities within AI and digitalization. But we also saw that to take the innovation or to take the competence from working with the energy markets, it's a lot of applied AI within this, but applied AI could also be used within other areas. So it's also a transformation from just the smart energy markets to also go towards applied AI.
They play really well together, I think, as well, because smart energy markets is a completely new area. Based on new developments in energy production and energy consumption, and a very, very rich application area for applied industrial AI. And so I also know that you have several both researchers and founders that have been entrepreneurs, very successful in one of these areas. So it's nice to put them together, perhaps.
Yes, it is. And in Smart Innovation Norway, we have quite a strong research team as well. That means that we take and the founders. The founders are still very active within Smart Innovation Norway, even though we started in 2003. We still have a lot of enthusiasm from our founders, and they're still strongly participating both in the clusters and within the company. And what's very interesting, I think, in Smart Innovation Norway is that we have from the clusters perspective, we have a lot of companies. We work closely together with our partners to help them innovate, and we also have the strong connection to our research department that apply and work on EU projects, to work on national projects. So we have a strong bridge from research until applied within the clusters. We have also a very good connection with the smart city segment that probably would use some of the solutions. We have a venture department that work with the startup companies, and we also have a visualization department. So we try to take the whole connection from the problem and to work with research, with applications, with the companies, with the startups, with the customers, and to apply this into the society.
Very interesting. The last thing I want to ask you that relates to Eli personally is, or professionally as well, I guess, is your involvement with Prospero. Would you say a few words about Prospero and what you do for them?
Yeah, Prospero. I think that a lot more people now know about Prospero. I found Prospero, I think, on Facebook in 2015, and I saw that this is something I have to do. It's Prospero is a pro bono consultancy company that gives guidance and competence to social entrepreneurs and ideal organizations. And in 2015, we were I think we were close to 200 consultants. So I was voluntarily consultancy manager for Prospero, and we built it up. So now it's I think it's probably 1,200 consultants, and we are able to help a lot of social entrepreneurs in Norway too, because we see that it's the same thing as with the startup companies. We see that social entrepreneurs, they have competency within, and they burn really for what they want to solve, but they might not have the competence within strategy, within business development, within communication strategy. So that's where Prospera comes in to set up a team to help the social entrepreneurs to realize their potential, to get specialists that they normally can't afford to buy, and to help the social entrepreneurs to grow. So that's really it's a lot of fun. It takes a little bit of work, but mostly it's a lot of fun.
Very cool. Eli, so tell us a little bit more about what do you understand by applied AI?
I think for us, it's really important that it's applied. That means that it's close to getting into the market, and it's something that's usable. And the opposite of it's I think that's more research related AI. We need both, but we also need the applied part to be sure that we can make service that is helpful to people, to be able to use this to solve some problems. And we have a company in our cluster that uses AI to check the power nets, to find the possibilities there to so they don't have to send out one person to climb the power grids to
check what's wrong. Yeah.
To check what's wrong, and you can use AI to look at this and to find out what's wrong, and probably can solve it also without someone risking their life probably to do so. So I think that's really good example of how it's applied and how it's possible to use this.
So I'll try to fill in from my perspective there. So I can never hold back in these conversations. So I've been looking at how US, especially Silicon Valley and China, are working with AI now. And I think that, scientists related to some of the biggest universities in the US have done probably, and a couple in Canada, have done most of the heavy lifting in defining these new algorithms that now define the deep learning and neural net-based AI. But the application of this to real life, everyday problems is led by China now. Mm-hmm. And I have a feeling that, they're focusing very much on, let's not try to invent yet another algorithm. Let's use the algorithms, refine them. Actually, they've come up with some very cool improvements of these algorithms, but it's about getting as much data as possible and then applying these known algorithms to the data that will improve the traffic or the factory efficiency or the healthcare levels. And I think it's in this application of what's already known algorithmically to the new data that the magic really happens. And I'd like your comment basically on Norway's unique opportunities here, because I have a feeling that we are one of the societies in the world with most digital infrastructure in society, but also in industry.
Yes, I think so, and I think that Norway has a good possibility, because we the use of data, we have good possibilities there, because I think that we see the value. Sorry. On how to gather data, and I don't think we've reached the potential yet to how to use it, but we have some traditions, I think, on gathering data. But also, I think that one important question or one important topic here is the trust in the society, that a lot of us are willing to share our data between companies and also from the public sector, that they are willing to share data. I'm thinking, I've been following this hunt research in Trøndelag for some years, and the possibility to use this, even though it has stranded on several places. I think that this is something that we can build upon, the willingness to gather data. But I think that the industry as well, since we are quite a small company and most of the industries rely on each other, and especially with the cluster thinking, we have different parts in the value chain. The possibilities to build upon each other's data, that's really important. But I was thinking, when you asked this question, I went to Iceland once, and I think that they even have a stronger background there, I think, to share data and the willingness to share it. They did gather data on all personal gene.
I think they do genetic data even.
Genetic, yes. And to me, that's it's really interesting to do so, and it's a wow factor as well that they're able to do so. I don't think that Norway is there yet, but it might be that after Iceland or some other countries, I think that Norway would probably also have the possibility to work towards those kind of ideas.
I think it has to do with understanding the value of data. I'm a little bit kind of exasperated by hearing that, data is the new oil, because I'm missing the next sentence, and it is, well, what's the engine? If data is the oil, then how are we going to use it? And I think your clusters are a very good example of those kinds of engines. You take data, you make sure that data is gathered, whether it's about energy markets and energy grid and energy distribution and production, or whether it is some industrial application. I actually don't know if companies like Borregaard or some of the most interesting tech companies in your area have started, being data driven or not. But to me, this is a really unique opportunity for Norway. I think Iceland has genetic data. They are really brilliant. They have a population, I think, about 1/10 of Norway's. But Norway has almost as good data in a different sector, and that's finance. We have this thing called Altinn, where all the financial data flows related to public sector and individuals are kept. And I haven't seen that kind of a system anywhere else. So why aren't we more proud of it is one of the questions.
I'm actually extremely proud of Altinn and what we have done with the financial sector. But I think that I think Norwegians have quite a high expectancy on, this is just to be solved. And they don't really see the innovation in this. And I think that especially Skatteetaten and Altinn has been really, really great examples on how to innovate through the public sector and to gather data and the possibilities to work on this. And you also mentioned that companies are data-driven. I think that it's probably a lot easier for younger companies to become data-driven if they had this as the business model already, than to transform well-established companies to become purely data-driven, because that's really, really a heavy transformation to go through that. But for the larger companies to get the ideas from the startups and also from the public sector, because the public sector has really, changed a lot. I would say I can't remember the last time I sent in my tax report in a written way, but probably 10, 15 years ago. I can't remember.
One of the things I had to smile about this year is that, as you say, several years we've had actually everything set up and you just have to sign off. But they have been so good at working with the user experience. There will be questions now which are easy to answer and help you to fill out the form in an understandable way. I had to report property abroad. We have an apartment in Montenegro, and the way that this works now, it's just impressive. I thought.
Yeah, and I think that that's part of the really to make it work. It's not only the data and to gather information, but it also the user experience and I have also added into my education some design thinking with strategic innovation, and to change your mind to work from the user's side. What kind of, and not necessarily that the user would tell you what they need, but to find out where are the pain points, where are the happy situations, what kind of needs do you have, how to solve this in a good way. And I think that especially this year's tax report has changed that as well. They really moved it into, for me as a user, to be sure that they have all they need, and for me to be easily guided through this makes it a lot smoother. And if we can put the data and the applications and the user interface into these kind of systems, so you don't see it as a hassle, it's almost a joy to go through this, because it suits you very well. I think that's a good goal for a lot of us, and I think we have. Well, it's probably a lot of places we need to try to get that kind of movement to be sure that we can have these kind of applications. But I think that Altinn is a really good example to look after.
Very cool. Yeah. Now, Eli, could I ask you to help me understand what are the smart energy markets? What and why do we need them?
Yeah, well, it's not really an easy question. Smart energy markets, it's a lot of things, and we have been discussing whether smart energy markets, it's the only thing, or is it something more into this? It's smart energy systems, it's smart energy distribution, it's smart energy storage, it's a lot of topics related to smart energy. And in Norway, we have a tradition. Norway is a energy producing country, not only oil and gas, but water power. We are in the forefront within electrification of our industry, electrification in our distribution nets, and in transportation. So it's the smart energy markets is really about how to connect the energy, how to store it, and how to use it, and how to predict, especially how to predict what kind of energy needs are there. For example, you can take a building and to see what kind of energy needs do you have for this building. For example, university campus, where you have a lot of people during the daytime and none during the night, and you can use digitalization of the energy to make this building be ventilated enough and hot enough when there are people there, and not to use a lot of energy when it's not a lot of people there. So it's all those kind of energy fluctuations and needs that we look into within the smart energy markets.
Yeah, I'm thinking with our infrastructure going smart, where the roads are going to be more aware of, who's driving and how much are they used, etc. Buildings, the same thing with Internet of Things and 5G. I think that the energy network and the energy market are going to become, I think, very integrated with everything digital. And so having control over that critical infrastructure for society will probably be one of the most important tasks for people who are responsible for our safety and our growth, in a way.
I think so too, and it's I don't think it's something that people in their daily life think of, but it's really in the core of our daily life, the energy and all those kind of data that goes through the infrastructure. Energy is a part of this infrastructure, of course, water and transportation as well. But it's really important that we have. This is really an important part of our infrastructure and makes a big difference every day that we don't think of. It's my opinion. Yeah.
So Eli, I want to ask you very briefly also about the interaction of public and private sector. So you have in your area a company called eSmart, a very interesting company in this sector. I used to work on a board of a company called Enoro, which is working more towards national energy grid providers. And my experience is that there is more impatience for innovation in the private sector and the smaller companies than in the big companies. How can we make this interaction work even better? You have worked on the borderline between these two for many years now. What do we do?
Well, first I would say that the private companies have, they have a drive to do so, and also eSmart, you mentioned, is also very eager to go abroad and to take a world-leading part in this. What I think is important is to connect the public and the private sector to because the public sector is a big owner and also have the muscles, I think, to be able to drive these transformations. But the first thing is to let them talk together and to work together, and we would normally then try to put up an innovation project together with the public and the private sector to find good solutions. And one of the challenges there, I think, it's the difference in speed. Sometimes that we have the private sector is probably have a higher speed than the public sector, but the public sector has a different mandate to ensure that everyone gets the power they need to. So I think to have some good projects together and to work together on this and to get familiar with how they think and to get familiar also how they work, to be able to connect this and to share competence between the companies. I think that's probably one of the solutions how to do this. And this is something we also work within the clusters, because we both have the private companies and also the public companies. So we try to make these connections within the cluster.
I think you're onto something very, very important here. And I think it has to do with also perhaps giving them different roles, where the public companies, the large publicly financed companies or owned companies can be more a part of the, problem in a way. They could be asking asking for innovation, and the private sector they would be platform innovating, if you wish. Yeah. They would be asking the big question, and then the private companies could plug into this platform with their solutions. And so the public sector is in a way the connecting sector, while this is the point solution sector.
Yeah. I think so, and I think that's actually where we are today as well. It's that we see that we probably haven't gathered all the points yet, but the platform together with the applications and the possibilities from the private sector, I think that's probably a way to move forward. And I think that this is also, I think that this part will also accelerate because we see that a lot of companies, especially the startups, have really good ideas on how to improve and how to use energy data for a lot of different things like you can use this to how to place new industry. You mentioned the battery sector, so if we're going to find new places to have a factory creating batteries, then we have companies also finding, where's the best place to do this, because they can gather all the data within energy and to find the best places to place such a factory.
I know that there is among other this really good cluster in Kristiansand called Eide that are also looking into batteries, and so I'd like to hear you a little bit on potential collaborations between clusters on this. And then when you said battery, my head jumped to Tesla as well.
Yeah.
I believe that having a battery in every house is going to be something that we all have 10 years from now. Does Norway have some unique opportunities to, for example, take that space and claim an international position?
I think so. I see that having the tradition as an energy producer, I think that moving into batteries is really one of the next things to go to. And I see that a lot of companies, and we have a lot of working with battery technology, battery reusage, how to be sure that they are circular batteries. So I think it's a lot of potential there to have a world-leading position within battery technology, both in producing but also in developing batteries. You mentioned the cluster-to-cluster cooperation, and we have a tradition, I think, to be able to share competence between the clusters, because we don't have that many clusters, and all the clusters are actually interested in finding the best solutions for our partners, or to help our partners to grow. And it's not necessarily done within a special cluster, but sometimes we need to make good connections to like, for example, Eideklyngen in southern Norway, because they have the competence on battery. We have the competence on how to connect the batteries and how to use this. So I think it's a good connection there. We also have, we have a project now on offshore wind. And when we produce the energy offshore, then we also need to store it. We also need to put it into the grid. We also need to make all these connections between the offshore companies and the energy companies.
Very cool. What is your hope for your sector in 5 years from now? Where would you really like to be? Especially with AI.
With AI, I think that we see, I wouldn't say exponential growth within companies, because that's not true. But I see that there's a lot of
serious growth.
Serious growth, yeah. So I think that we will still see that in 5 years, and I think that people would probably have been, it's a more natural part of all companies, I think, to use AI. So I think that it's more into every company's business model that we use AI, and I think that we have gathered most of the competence and the companies within the AI cluster to be able to grow together, because it's not only a national it's not a national mastership. We have to compete internationally, and I think that to gather the Norwegian companies to be able to show our strength, and to also go into to other countries. I think that's where we are in 5 years. I hope so, at least, and to be able to use this within different sectors.
So, Eli, you have some brilliant AI minds around you, and there are others in other clusters and other university areas, etc. But how do we get everybody on this train? This is a question about lifelong learning, and what should we push people to learn more about in order to be able to participate in this AI revolution?
Well, I think that most people would need to know more about digitalization and to know just the core elements. I was thinking about the elements of AI course, but I think that it might not be the solution for everyone. But to get some really basic core competence within coding, I would say that that's very interesting. Just to you've tried the microbits, right? Just to program with Scratch and stuff like that.
Very briefly on that.
Yeah.
So I was a jury member on a hackathon that Statens Kartverk, the charts public provider in Norway, a brilliant, wonderful company, and they organized an annual hackathon on 17 different sets of publicly owned data in Hønefoss. And I was there as a jury, and I had to take my kids. It was a weekend. And they said, yes, sure, it's great because we are going to have a Kitsa Koder, this coding class for kids there. And that's the first time I actually saw microbits in practice. I've seen kind of videos and so on. It was so fun.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, why don't we do that for grown-ups as well?
I'm thinking that we need to do that for grown-ups because I've done it myself. It's a lot of fun. And just to write your name and to make it visible or to just make an arrow. It takes you 5 minutes, I think, to be able to do so. So it's a lot of fun. I think that we don't. I think the kids are actually
people understand programming.
Yeah, and I think just to have something tangible to get into. So I think that's a good start, and I think that's probably for everyone to do. And of course, we had to also fill in with within all areas. We both need the high competence within some areas, but most people also need to find out that coding and digitalization, it's really not that. It's not a black box. It's not magical. It's something that it's possible to learn and to understand more about. So I think that to have that perspective, to be able to re-educate most of us, I think, to be able to understand a little bit more about that, and about lifelong learning as well. I think that when I finished my master's degree, I kind of thought that I'd done all the education I needed, and then I think it took me 1 year or something that I realized I have to fill in. I think that we need to fill in with our competence to through our whole life, because
I agree. I
I
love elements of AI, and I love the Coursera, MIT, but some of it is too deep and some of it is too narrow, and some of it. So I think we need to combine these things, and as you say, we need to mix and match and never stop.
Yeah, I think so, and to have it in bite-sized chunks. I think it's also important that you don't have to start a 2 years program to do so. You can if you want to, but to have the shorter parts to be able to do when you're on the train or just to listen to in a podcast like this. I think that's also very important pieces in the puzzle.
Eli, last question is really about you and lifelong learning. You started off as a chemist, basically, as you said, analytical chemistry.
Yeah.
And now you're into AI and data and energy markets. How do you build up the courage to go out of your, deep area and become this T-shaped person that knows a lot about one thing and many, many things a little bit?
Yeah, well, I think that for me, my master's in analytical chemistry, of course, it gave me a lot of competence within that field, but also you see the connections to other areas, to mathematics, to statistics, to physics. So you realize that there's a lot more to learn. And I've been lucky to work in places that I'm able to learn through my work, but also able to fill in with shorter educations in this to move. And I think that it's probably not courage, but it's I would say the curiosity that has driven me towards this, because I see that there's a lot of things happening, and I can take most of the competence I have, I think, and to build it on. So it is actually a red line from where I started to where I am now. It might seem like a big leap from analytical chemistry to the energy markets, but it's a stone by stone build, I think. So I think it's more the curiosity to find out the new ways and meet new people, and you can always learn. You can always take some of the competence you have already to put into this puzzle.
I so agree with you. So I'm a mathematician by trade, and for many years I was very shy about it. When I looked for a job in Norway after my PhD, people even looked at me, I think, with skepticism and thought, she must be really difficult to work with or something, too nerdy. And I was very, very theoretical. And now, after 10 years of actually dabbling more with business than with tech, I see how much that theory helps me understand some of the long-term, more important drivers of where this is going. And I've been reading and thinking that the next decade is going to be, as much as the previous one was the decade of logics and programming, the next one will be the decade of AI and chemistry. I think we're going into the age of chemistry where all this digital applied to the biological, the medical, the physical world we live in. And I think your ability to draw in things like, deep understanding of processes in chemistry with all this other stuff you've put in is exactly what makes you attractive and unique.
Yeah, and it's a good way to look at it, because I think that's also, we just started to get it into the more technical areas, and now we see that it's possible also to move into other areas that traditionally we didn't think of these possibilities. But I see that we are going in that direction. I think it's really interesting to move into that direction. It might be a bit scary as well, because we would always meet new challenges and new ethical problems and new challenges that needs to be solved. But I agree with you. I think this is something that we will see forward, and I would hope that this is also the decade for going into this. But we will also bring what we've learned in the last decade.
So the practical question of what's next. How can people who want to somehow participate in your applied AI revolution contact you, or what could they do?
Well, they can contact us in the Cluster for Applied AI within Smart Innovation Norway, and to just call me, or to send me an email, or to find us on Twitter, or all the contact points. So we would be happy to talk to everyone that wants to discuss AI and how to apply it, or if you have a problem to solve and you think that AI could be the possibility, then just contact us in Cluster for Applied AI and Smart Innovation Norway.
You like problems that need to be
solved. We like
solved.
problems, yeah, and I think that's also one of the drivers for us to find new solutions.
Eli Haugerud from Smart Innovation Norway, thank you so much for presenting your two super cool clusters to us and inviting us to work together on applying AI.
Thank you so much.
Du har nå lyttet til en podcast fra LØRN.tech, en læringsdugnad om teknologi og samfunn. Nå kan du også få et læringssertifikat for å lytte til denne podcasten på vårt online universitet LØRN.university.